Welcome, first of all. Little Red Rope is what I'm going to call you right now. That's how I've been following you, and I learned about you through seeing your work with Percy, Cat,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I know that you two are very close, and I very much respect her work and her photography. And I've always been inspired by the work that you've been doing, and then it's come to light for me that you have other forms of your erotica. So I'm
Yes.
very curious as to how you define yourself as a sex worker, if that's the language you use, or if you just want to kind of fill me in on how you see yourself.
I'm definitely a drill of all trades. I do a lot of different work. I do work completely outside of this that's entirely different. I do make most of my money doing freelance art, whether that's illustration, logos, photography, paintings, and kind of anything anybody needs, I will make for you. I can make that happen, even if that means getting outside sources. And I do dance in a club, and I do work as a sugar baby part time as well too. So I do consider that sex work, which
Yes.
I feel is more of like a newer term. So I feel like from outsiders' perspective, when you say sex worker, people just like assume you're just having sex for money, which is like not what it is at all. But I do feel like that's the best description of what I do versus like, oh, I just a stripper at a club.
Yeah. So, this, like, what do they call it? The hierarchy. There's this idea that there's sex work that's better or worse,
Yeah.
whatever. That we're always so pit against each other. Yeah. So the term sex work always kind of annoys me too.
Hmm.
I like to say sex professional. You know,
That's a good one.
the good ones I think are professionals. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that there's always levels to our abilities that we learn over.
Yeah.
Some people have a different way of approaching it, but yeah. Anyway, I'm always curious how people define themselves in this trade, because there's so many different avenues. How do
There
you,
really is.
like, for you, like, what what are the, like, how do you compare all of the different legs of this central, I just call it, well, eroticism or erotic art, like, how do you differentiate these for yourself?
Um, I guess I really don't break it down in my own brain. I just kind of is all encompassing have like taken on the word sex worker and just like everyone's considered a sex worker. And if people approach me with saying like this is what I consider myself, and like I'll use whatever terminology like they find acceptable, like for doing what they do. Because I have friends who work in all spectrums of sex work, and they all have individual names. Some people just encompassing calling it sex work. For me, I try not to like put labels on anything too much because I just feel like it kind of restricts how you think about certain things. So I don't honestly think too much into the labels of it. I just know that sex worker is a kind of an up and coming common word for it nowadays. So that's just kind of what I've comfortably been using. So
Yeah, no, I definitely hear that. What do we want to talk about first? Okay, I have a question about an anonymity. Um,
hmm.
a few interviews where my guests, they won't show their face, or
Yeah.
the one I just didn't want to. She wanted to share her face because she looked really good. Uh,
Yeah.
she didn't want to share her name or any links or anything.
Yeah.
So, it took me a long time to come out fully, and I wish I had done it sooner. How
Hmm.
I don't have, like, um, I'm not scared of what the repercussions might be. I'm also in Canada, so I'm protected.
Yeah.
So, do you want to talk about your decision to be anonymous today?
Of course. So I mean, I started out working with Percy, who, if you've looked into her stuff, know that she's also very anonymous. So like, I kind of, learned from her about it and the mystery of it and how sexy it could be with a mystery. I mean, I feel like this is the most I've shown of my face, but obviously I'm still concealed. But for me, I do other work outside of this. I feel like if that was the only work that I had ever done, I really would not care. But I do my other work with children. So I feel like obviously those are two very completely different things. So I like to try to keep them as separate as possible. For me, I honestly don't really care, and I wish that I could be more open about it. But I also enjoy my other work so much because it's very fulfilling, and I'm also doing something for the community. So for me to just give that up would just be too much for me. So I'd rather just keep my privacy.
Yeah. I don't, you know, I would like to have kids soon-ish, and
Hmm.
have a friend once tell me that, you know, you better stop doing that kind of work if you want to have a family. And it was really hard for me to hear, but I also realized that it gives me, I have such an understanding of the way a lot of the world works from this work, that I'm able, I think, to provide a lot more information to children, like as
Yes.
appropriately as it comes up, and to have a lot more openness in those conversations. I thank my mom for that. She's always been very open. But yeah, it would be a shame if I had to hide who I was to protect, you know, little ones.
I mean, I've studied child psychology, and there's, nothing that I have found in my journey of education that says that teaching kids, to be open about their sexuality and be open around the conversation does nothing negative. So
Wow.
I would definitely working with kids as long as I have, there's no negative side to doing this and having children and having those appropriate age conversations when certain things or questions like come up.
Yeah.
Um, I think that you can coincide with motherhood and this.
Yeah.
I always feel like there's like the Madonna and the horror type thing of like the Mary and the Magdalene of like these two separate diverse sides of women that you can only be one or the other. And why can't these two sides of us come together? Because clearly we all have both of these sides in us.
Yes, I call those archetypos. These like really flat two-dimensional versions of personnel sub-personalities of women, you know, when we're taught these like very narrow, limited versions of ourselves. It really cuts into our ability to speak freely and openly. So, okay, I have a question about you, since we're kind of on this like mother whore spectrum.
Yes.
What's your origin story? How did you become, I guess the motherhood thing made me think of like being birthed. How did you become this version of yourself?
A lot of time, a lot of time. I've definitely only become comfortable in the last like 3 years of it. I guess, I mean, I feel like at a very young age, I was always kind of put into like the horror category because I matured a lot faster than everybody else. So I was seen as a sexual object pretty early, and I feel very thankful that I don't have anything, traumatic in a sense in that way. But I saw very early on that this did things to people. And I had moved I had done some dancing here and there throughout my life. I did, professional dancing too and burlesque. So I was kind of introduced into this world, and I'd moved to LA about 3 years ago. And I was so broke. I was like, do I pay rent or do I eat this week? And obviously, I chose rent every week. So I got to this point where I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm not supporting myself. What are my skills? And I was like, I'm really good at flirting, and, I'm really good at like being seen as a sexual object. Like, how do I make income out of that? So I just interviewed at a club, and then it just kind of started. And I met Percy, and I just went on this like amazing self journey of who I am, and, how to depend on myself, and, how to get through these really rough situations with just my only skills that I had. And I'm an educated person, and I do have an education to take me places, but that education wasn't taking me anywhere. And I was still living paycheck to paycheck. So it's like, you don't really need that 4 year degree because it didn't help me at all. Because I think a lot of people think you get into this because you don't have any other options, or you don't have any other skills, or you don't have education. I have all of those. I chose to do this because this is the best situation for me, and it was what I wanted to do.
I think
That's kind of how I
Yeah,
journeyed into it.
it's really well said. Like I I like that you brought up the fact that you have been treated, or like you have been identified as someone who is quite sexual, a sexual object, as I call it the same thing. Actually, I've never heard someone use the same language. That's really awesome. That it's not how you necessarily identified, but how you were identified by others. And it turns out that that was kind of your special gift to the world.
Yeah.
And shame on you for having such a special gift.
I know, right? Yeah, I was definitely shamed for a very long time and teased throughout school, but I think embracing that has just really opened up my eyes of who I am as a person, and being able to like, I think I was always very scared throughout navigating through the world of asking for things or doing what I wanted or going against like the wave of things. It's taught me that like I can do my own thing and I can succeed and I can flourish in that. And it's definitely helped me self-confidence wise with just not giving a fuck. And it's amazing.
Yeah, what a journey of empowerment. Incredible. Okay, well then let's talk about that. You spoke to me earlier off camera about really wanting to acknowledge this sense of confidence and the sense of empowerment that you've experienced through going through this process. Do you want to touch on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So like I said, when I moved to LA, I was just living paycheck to paycheck, and I was actually a teacher. So that goes to talk about like how much we mistreat our teachers in the education system. I went to school for being a teacher. I loved it. It was what I was working at. Like my dream goal was to be living in LA, being a teacher, and there I was, and I was starving to death. And I wish that was an exaggeration. And that's kind of when I came up with that. So I was, wanting to be an artist as well. And I had no confidence because I was being mistreated at work. I was spending my breaks crying. When the kids were sleeping, I was crying. I was so stressed out when I wasn't working. I was at home working for work for free. I was buying supplies with my own money. Like, this is what every teacher has to go through. So please treat your teachers nicely, parents too. So I started doing this and I met Percy and she kind of took me under her wing. And I have a lot to thank Percy for with all of that. And she's a businesswoman. She's so smart. I'm sure you know, talking to her. She's very well educated and she's given me all the confidence I need as a person, as a woman, as a business manager. My work as an artist has flourished because I have more confidence in myself. If you do this work, you're going to get eaten alive if you don't have that self-confidence in that barrier, because you're getting rejected every day too, as much as you're getting accepted. So you kind of have to be able to take those no's and roll with it and keep going. I love my body now, and I've definitely struggled with that for a very long time. But working in the clubs, you see that women from all body shapes and different everything, the women, if you were to do a lineup and say that woman make the least amount of money, she's definitely making the most in the club. And that definitely like completely changed my perspective on like what beauty is, because beauty is in everything. Like we assume that all women need to be shaven. Sometimes I don't shave and I go into the club and I make more money than when I do shave my armpits. It's like this society is telling us this is what makes you beautiful, but when you're in the club and men are paying for it, they will take anything. So it's definitely given me this weird self-confidence of myself and finding beauties in my flaws and learning how to manage myself and my time and manage how I talk to people and manage my reactions and emotional reactions to people, which has helped me in my personal life as well. Learning how to sell myself, as a person and as an artist. Like I'm able to do more paid things because I have the confidence to say, I need to get paid for this. Like I'm not doing this for you for free. Like if you would like me to do this artwork for you, then sure, this is how much I cost. Yeah. And if people want to say no, then that's fine. I will find somebody else that will say yes. And before I started doing any of this, I never had that confidence. I never had the ability to say any of those things. And it's helped me more than I could ever imagine. And just to have that respect for myself. And I feel like the people I work with respect me more than when I was a teacher. My management treats me better than when I was a teacher. My coworkers are more supportive and more fun to be around than when I was a teacher. And that's things that you'd never see from an outsider's perspective of what it is to be a dancer or a sex worker.
Yeah, I've never worked as a dancer. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I've definitely been in a situation where there's been two or three of us on call, in a full service situation. And those times I found myself feeling very protective over the girls and, speaking up when I thought something was not appropriate, or,
Yeah.
just the fear of going into a situation like that and thinking, am I good enough? Am I, like all of that stuff, that these insecurities from the base physical whatever presentation that we have that's supposed to be the selling
Mm-hmm.
point, it all, a lot of anxiety going in, but once I was in the situation, I just felt like a mama bear over everybody to make sure everyone was okay. And so I imagine that kind of transcends not just from that situation, but into clubs, hopefully, and other spaces. The only space I struggle with still is online. I
Mm-hmm.
feel good, and then I sometimes see like there's just like, so there's the volume of naked women right now. It's
Yes.
intimidating sometimes, but it's not for bad. It's just, for me, it's a practice of learning more about the people behind this image that I think is so scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I have some other questions for you.
Of
um,
course.
I want to know, who are you following right now, or do you have any people that you're really interested in on Instagram?
Yes, I'm gonna pull out my phone if that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm horrible at remembering names. So somebody who I have been following for a really long time, and I just ordered rope off of her. It is, so her name's, I'm probably gonna butcher this. She's from Spain. Paulina Masamicio. She is also Shibari. I'm gonna pronounce this wrong. I'm so sorry. I feel like I'm just completely butchering what I should know. Horrible languages. Shibari. The art that I do, I can't even pronounce it. I sound horrible and uneducated.
I,
She also does learn Shibari. Is that how you pronounce it? I've actually never heard anybody else say it out loud.
I think it's Shibari.
Shibari. Okay. Um, I'm really good at rope tying, but just the education behind it is a little lacking. So I follow her. I really absolutely love her. Um, she is a she identifies as they them as her pronouns, and she's considered asexual, where I am not that educated in that, but I do know it's, you kind of aren't really into relationships for the sex value. You're into them just for like the pure pleasure you get from just being around people and being friends with them and stuff like that. It's not about sex. So
Yeah.
she does it, and she does it very artsy way. She's very talented. The other artist I follow, I don't even think is in the sex work community. I think she just likes to take pictures of herself. Is that Papa de Luna? Just beautiful work. I absolutely love them from a photography standpoint.
Great. Yeah,
Um,
I'm
yeah,
always curious to see who to learn from. I and who interests the people that I'm interested in is even more compelling for me to understand.
I do follow more like photographers than I would say like sex workers. Obviously, they do filter in there too because they want to be supportive. Like I try to follow a lot of the girls I work with and support them, and like, you know, and try to just network in that way because I feel like we should all just support each other in that way.
Yeah. Do you have like any pay-per-view sites or anything like that, or are you just doing your
I don't. I did try online camming one time and it just like I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to manage myself. It was like the most horrendous experience I've ever had. And I don't even think I ended up getting like any money from it. And I'm just not on par with fans only restrictions and how their money works. And like, I think it's great when people do it, but I know that I don't have enough of a following to really like monetize myself very well off of it. I know there's a lot of work you have to put into it, and I'm just not that I don't have that time, unfortunately.
Well, I wanted to ask you about your Shibari, um,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean that's what your account is, and
Yeah.
you're really skilled at it. And I've noticed that you've learned it from being on a farm and tying lots of ropes. Is it farm? Yes, farm
Yeah.
boats.
Boats.
Both.
Yeah, yeah. Both technically, but we don't really do rope tying on the farm. But yeah, I grew up in New England on the water. So one of my family's side is Native American, the other side of my family is like white farmers. So I grew up with craftsmen on both sides. I dated a marine mechanic for 3 years, so we kind of spent a lot of time on the water, and I learned how to sail. And we would sit like in the winter time at the docks and we would do like rope tying competitions, and I would blow everybody away like every single time, and they'd be like, how does this girl from nowhere like know how to do this stuff better than us, and we're professionals. And like I even remember being a Girl Scout at a really young age and the Boy Scouts coming over and teaching us how to do the rope ties, and then when we were done everyone went and played and I sat and stayed and like kept doing it and kept doing it because I don't know, I've always really liked it. I even really like untangling my jewelry and like getting the knots out. So for me, it's just something that came really natural to me. And then the fact that I could intertwine it into, my sex life is also extremely amazing. But I don't always see it as just a sexual thing. I think it's an art and a sex thing, and I think it's so beautifully combined.
Yeah, I'm curious about it. I actually was gonna ask you if you would teach me how to do one tie. I have I have like some rope that
Yes, we have the same robe actually.
would you like walk me through something? I'm excited.
Sure. It's funny because I feel like a lot of people will look at this and think it's very restricting or very kind of degrading. But when people put it on, they are like, I feel very empowered. Like, just very straight, manly men I've tied up, and they're like, oh, wow. Like, I get it. I feel very sexy. Like, they have like this new, like, oh, self awakening just with putting like
Should I,
a harness on them.
should
It's perfect.
this is the double, right?
Yep. It's double.
Okay. Yeah, this is like really it's an interesting process.
I see you have, okay, so then you're gonna loop these through here. I don't know if yours are long enough, hon.
Really? Okay. I hold on one second. I loop through them underneath.
Both through, yep.
Go two sides. I'm double. Oh, okay. I just take this end, this one. Is it like this?
Yes, perfect.
Oh, okay. I think I've done this wrong. Hold on. I'm reading. I'm like not. I'm really embarrassed. I'm not reading you right.
So match up your ends like this.
Yeah.
Yep, and then loop it through the,
Okay, now it's really long. I get it. I get it. I get it now. And then it's like this. This is gonna make it
yep.
much better. Okay.
So you wanna make sure this is tight in the back. Okay, yeah.
Very tight at the
And
back.
you're gonna loop it down. Yep.
Oh yeah. My collar up.
And then I'm gonna see like if you can. This is where I kind of loop it. So I'm gonna go up,
Yep.
and then I'm gonna put my finger through like this. And then loop it through. So it makes a knot, so it's stable.
I think I might have done that right. Okay. I think so. I mean, it's not as pretty as yours, but like it's my first day. Yeah, and then
So you're gonna have two opposite, and then you're gonna go around this way. I'm gonna pull on top. And then you're gonna go up on one side. You're not gonna cross them over, they're gonna actually meet right here.
oh, like this? Okay, like that.
Yes. So then you're gonna loop it through on one side.
Oh, wow. Oh, this is like a nice harness.
And then you're gonna, yeah, honestly, sometimes I feel like they work better than bras. And you're gonna do the same type of knot up there too.
Well, yours is definitely more sophisticated, but this is kind of fun.
So you could always like leave this just like this, and then you can have a partner tie you up from behind so your arms are behind you. Or you can, you know, loop it back down and create, if your rope is long enough, you can even create like a hip harness to attach to it as well.
Wow. I think I'm figuring it out. Oh, yeah.
And then I would loop it in the back for more stability. And then I would just kind of come down.
Yeah, I've run out of.
I'm literally just making this up. So you could tie up from behind right now for yourself.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do. Okay, this is fun. So, what to you is what's the creative process for you? Like, what's the point of doing this for you? And is it with your models, and you do it with yourself, and then you do photographs? But like, where is all this from? Talk to me about that.
So I've actually always been really interested in it, and it looks fabulous. You did a really good job. I'm gonna tie mine off. I've always been really interested in it, and I always thought it was really beautiful. I bought my first rope, there you go, years ago. And I found it's been really hard to find a partner who's willing to really explore that with me, like for long-term situations. So it's always something that's like in my bottom drawer, and then when I'm single they come out and I do all these ropes, and you know, I enjoy sending pictures to people. But I learned once I started kind of doing it that I just really enjoyed learning it, so I just started learning it when I was single and living by myself for a while. And I've always, as an artist, I really love geometric shapes. So for me, when I'm doing this, I'm just thinking very geometrical. And I just think that it's, for me, it's an extension of art. It's an extension of fashion. Like I made a belt the other day and it went perfectly with my outfit, and I could just wear that out and about. I mean, I wouldn't feel weird wearing this out. Like it's totally, it just looks like it's part of my outfit.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the fashion these days. Like all of the lingerie, everything is harnessed. Everything has got like this like quote unquote kink look to it, you know, like
Yes.
edgy in some way. But this, I don't know, I find this romantic almost. Yeah, it's a really beautiful thing. What happens when you have a new partner at home and you're like what?
I do like to break that out very early, that like this is, you know, what I'm into. I not a lot of people are into it, so unfortunately that's something I'm still searching for. But that's why I kind of started doing this, because I have an avenue to explore it, and now I can do that. I think about like a year ago when a lot of, I don't know if you saw any of it, where a lot of photographers were getting exposed. A lot of male photographers in the kink community were getting exposed for being creeps. And I remember posting, I try often not to talk on people's pages, because no matter how nice you think you're being, someone's always going to take it the wrong way.
Yeah.
I had commented, this is why we need to support women photographers, because you know, we're not going to, most women aren't going to do that. I'm not going to say women don't do it, but you know, most women aren't going to do that to you. They're going to want to curate a comfortable environment. And like, I basically was like, I don't understand why women are shooting with creepy men when there's options of having women photographer. And this guy commented, well, your photographer sucks. They don't go to you because you're bad. And I was like, okay, so this guy hiding behind private profile, like, what's your artwork? He did have like a link to like photographs that he had done in Playboy, which, you know, congratulations. But I don't think that necessarily makes you a good photographer. But I thought that was really interesting, and that really just like stuck with me and got under my skin of thinking like, why not me? But the thing was, is I wasn't putting myself out there as that type of photographer. I was only doing documentary. I was only doing street photography, and I started taking Percy's pictures. A lot of the pictures, I wouldn't say a lot, but some of the pictures of Percy's Instagram are my photos. And I realized that I had a niche for this and I could do this. And I understood the art side, I understood the photography side, I understood the sex worker side. So I felt like I was coming from, you know, a higher advantage than most people. So I was like, why aren't I doing this? Well, just do it. So here I am. You know, I have a photo shoot today with this amazing, beautiful lady that I'm so excited to shoot with. And you know, like I'm doing that now a year later. Like this is, you know, I put my foot in there and the sand this August, and it's already been like jobs have been rolling in, and you know, models have been coming and wanting to shoot with me. And you know, you just have to put yourself out there and do that stuff. And why not me? It can be me, and now it is me, and that's just so amazing to say out loud, honestly.
Yeah, well, good for you. I mean, think it, say it, be it, first of all. You know, like you can't, you know, you can't fulfill a vision unless you decide to go in that direction. So good for you. And I find with me especially too is as soon as I make a decision to move in a direction, like the heavens open up, and then all of a sudden all of the things I need to go to that goal just happen to show up for me one step at a time. I wanted to ask you a little bit about this, about your idea of when someone says your photos aren't good enough because you're a woman. I'm
How often?
it just reminds me of like, is that because we're just so used to the male gaze that it's harder for us to adapt to how a woman sees another woman or sees the beauty in another woman? I love this cat.
Sorry. She's like not even snuggling. She's just doing this for attention.
Many cats across this screen. It's fine.
So I went to school for art photography mostly and education. So I have both backgrounds, and I did a lot of gender studies when I was going through art. Like any free class we had, feminist, anything. So I did a session on the male gaze, like a whole semester on it, and it was just so powerful to me. And like now I see photos and I can't unsee the certain things. And you know, like a lot of the photos are very like, and I think Instagram's definitely like made this worse to the disembodied female form where you just see shots and parts. But because of Instagram censorship, that's intensified where you're only seeing sections and body parts, and it's just so disembodying to who women are. We're not seeing women as a whole, as a person, as a being. We're just seeing them leg, breast, ass. Like we're just kind of breaking down the female form. And I feel like men have taken women's bodies and it's a marketing tool of how to sell a product. Playboy being able to post whatever the heck they want, and sex workers being able to post very little of what they would want. I had a photo taken down yesterday where I was literally just doing this. You could not see my breast whatsoever. They took it down. I took like the clear color marker, put it over. I had to color over my hands, and then they said that was acceptable. I literally just colored over my hands, and that was acceptable. But Playboy can just like barely blur out nipples of women just being like this, and they don't, it's acceptable.
And why is that, do you think? Like, is it because they have a higher like viewership, or is it because
They have a higher viewership, they have money, they have lawyers? Like if they took down one of Playboy's photos, they would probably have a lawyer all over their ass talking to someone. So they have an inside connection. It's all like a business Like if Playboy is touting Instagram, people are going to want to go to Playboy's Instagram. It's all, about money, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. And like, where's my money? I make nice, sexy photos and I want more money for
Yeah, exactly. And we should be. But yeah, I just feel like that all that the capitalism of it, just the patriarchal society that we live in,
it.
it's definitely put women at a lower bar with absolutely everything, including art. And I mean, historically speaking, there's so many women artists that go by their husband or their father's name because they weren't even allowed to be artists. Women weren't allowed to be artists for extremely long time. And throughout, learning about photography, there's very few famous women photographers, and a lot of times they are criticized more than men photographers. People who photograph themselves naked, it's seen as vulgar, but then a male takes a photo of his wife naked, and that's art.
Art.
Just like, yeah, exactly.
This leads me into I always ask about your feminist theology, I'll put it. What
Yes,
is your, thesis on?
my men's tears, my feminist mug.
So clearly you're a feminist. What do
Yes.
your definition of feminism, and how does that play a part in your sex work?
Um, I mean, that's a hard question to answer for sure. I think feminism is such a touchy word. It really is. Because I remember I was dating this girl like when I was young, and she was the first person that introduced me to feminism. And she was like, "Oh, are you a feminist?" And I remember being like, "No," because I didn't even know what that meant, but my natural answer was no. And she really explained it to me and what it is. And then I would ask my friends who are also in the LGBT community, like, are you a feminist? And they would say no. And this went through this cycle of making everyone I know a feminist because I just feel like nobody actually knew what it meant. I think that word is changing now, but for me, I want equal rights for everyone. I want men to be able to wear makeup and cry and talk about their emotions, and I want women to be able to do badass things like be, mechanical engineers and sex workers and photographers and artists and do whatever they want and get paid equally, get treated equally. Like, it's so crazy that I'm fighting for people just to be treated like people and not just some stereotypical gender that's been created. I just want to be able to live freely. I want to be able to walk down the street and not fear that I'm going to get raped or mugged or harassed. And I just want to be able to live and like have my life. Like, that's all I want. That's what feminism is to me, is just being able to live my life honestly.
It seems so simple, doesn't it?
That's,
What a fight! What a fight, feminism in the first place, but especially right
mhm.
in the US. I'm just looking in from up north, like,
Okay, I forget.
like, what the hell is going on over there? Like, there's this big vote is coming. The whole world is watching. And
Oh God, I'm so embarrassed.
well,
Yeah, it's bad.
look, like I lived in the States. I lived in Santa Monica, not full
Hmm.
for 3 years, often like every 2 weeks. I was living there for 2 weeks or whatever. And it's
Yeah,
a different world. It's a different world from where I was. Um, and not in a There was a lot of amazing things about being there. But there was a lot of things that made me just have like a general sense of anxiety, and like the polarity is so extreme. Like it was very hard to find middle ground with people. It was like you're on one side or the other, and that's all there is to it. And I know that this election means a lot to everybody. Uh,
yeah.
how's that feeling for you right now? Do you mind talking? Is this like
Yeah, not at all. I mean, whew, it's just so much to unpack. I mean, I remember when Trump won, and you could just feel it in the air. Like, it was like like that day after Christmas it's really quiet, or the day of Christmas, it's like that quiet, weird, somber, like the joy, everything's over.
Yeah.
It felt like that, but in a bad way. Like everything was just quiet and weird, and like everyone had this weird energy to them. And I just feel that energy has not left. And I feel like because of who we have as a president right now, men are coming out of the woodwork thinking like it's okay. Like him being able to say, like, grab him by the pussy and like be okay and acceptable, and to be our, chief and commander, that set up a whole floodgate of people saying like I can say whatever I want to females. I definitely feel like there has been a shift with how women are being treated with the Trump administration. And being a part of the queer community, like my rights are on the line right now. Like they're talking about taking away same-sex marriage. Like why? It's like 2020. Like we're trying to not die from the coronavirus right now. Could we not worry about who's marrying who? And just like being able to like fire people because they are transgendered or because they are queer, like that's still legal in some states, and like they're still fighting for those to be possible. And like you can still go to, like, you can get out of jail for murdering somebody because they were gay. Like, oh, you know what, they hit on me and I'm not gay and they were gay, so I'm gonna murder them, and it's called gay panic, and you can legally get away with murder for that. Like this is the world that I live in right now. It's crazy, and it's just being intensified and being brought more to the surface, and I am kind of worried.
What do you personally think the antidote to all this mayhem is?
Women, we need to vote more women in. More women need to run for politics. Like, I think, I mean, that's why I like working with kids, because I want to empower young girls to like go for those things, to work in sciences, to work in math. I think we need to teach more women that they can take on these roles. We need more women in politics. Like, I don't agree with every single woman in politics. A lot of them, it is a man's world, and you kind of have to play by men's rules to get ahead in that world, I'm sure. But we need more women behind there, just to even things out. They're making laws on our own bodies, and no woman is in the room to say, no, thank you.
Yeah, I think you're right. More more women in positions of power, and women of color in positions of power. I mean, it makes sense to have the people who are most oppressed to have the most empathy for decision making. I think that that just makes so much sense. And yet it's such an uphill battle. But I think you're absolutely right. Okay, let's get off of politics for.
Okay, sounds good.
I have all these like little sticky notes of questions I like to ask. Um, okay, so this is a question I ask often because I'm really curious about it.
Okay.
Um, do you have any before and after rituals when you're about to work in your sex field, whatever that is, like whether you're going to go dance or if you're a sugar baby or whatever? Are there things that you like to line up for yourself before you go in, and is there ways that you decompress or tune back in? Like, what is that experience like for you?
I do. My getting ready process is like putting on music that I really like, and kind of out of work. I don't really wear makeup. I kind of dress like a 12-year-old boy. So like in order to like get into that mindset, like I put good music on or something I'm really interested in, and I really take the time to take care of myself, and taking a shower and doing all the that stuff that I need to do, and like putting on lotion that I really like, and like things that make me feel sexy, and dance around the house. I, like to kind of take my time putting my makeup on and dancing around. It just makes me feel really sexy, and it kind of makes me feel like I'm like coming into myself. So I'm just like kind of really jazzed up to like go dance and go interact with people. I usually kind of like to take it easy before I go in, so I'm not like exhausted by the time I get in, like to reserve my energy. And then when I get home, depending on like when I get home and how I feel, I do kind of just like to unwind by being like cozy and taking a bath or a shower and kind of unwinding. I'm very much into meditation, like tarot cards and crystals. So it's definitely like, and incense is definitely like a part of my ritual as well to kind of just feel centered. And if I feel a little off, I'll bring certain crystals with me to kind of make me feel like energized or calm, or, you know, things that kind of help me through. I always have crystals like in my work bag. So like I feel like no matter what's going off, like I'm warding off your negative energy, sir. Like I don't need you right now.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. You know, as much as it is a performance art, I think it is a healing art, and maybe those two things are, you know, inextricably connected. So that it makes sense that you would bring in all of your healing processes to the table. That's really
And
cool.
I mean, dance is a form of therapy too, like to kind of release all the toxins from your body.
Yes.
So for me, it's very much like a release and a therapy for me when I'm on stage. I love being on stage. I love dancing. I love performing. So for me, it's all just like getting ready for like my final performance, you know, every time I go in. And that just helps really energize me and keep that same energy with between me and my client.
And what about when you come home? What does that look like for you?
Um, just it's always first a shower because I just need to get all of that off of me. And then I mean, sadly, I do just love like counting my money at the end of the night too. It's just like, you know, like it just makes you feel like so proud. I don't know, for me always, of just like I did this. And then usually it's just like food, tons of water, lots of weed. I don't know if it's legal, sorry. Lots of smoking, and just like in bed being cozy. Like that's just my just I don't even care if I work during the day. I will come home and like just sit in bed and relax and rest my body. I do push myself way too hard body wise, so I like to just like do nothing for like at least a couple hours before I kind of get up and do anything again.
I think that's really beautiful. It's important to me to have those rituals, you know, to, I don't know, set the energy and then close the circle, I guess. I don't, those are two
Yeah.
different analogies, but yeah, I think for me, I don't know, that yeah, the getting, I hear this a lot now. I've done these interviews enough times where getting ready the way that you love the most, like just getting into that vibe of like super confident, is very common. And then coming home and just comfort, whatever that looks like, soothing, self-soothing. Yeah, you're definitely not alone in that. Okay, so in terms of time, I can only ask you a couple more questions, but I'm having a lot
Okay.
of fun. I did this one. I did this one. I did this one. And we talked about that. Talked about that. Okay, wow, we really got through a lot of these.
I talk fast.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. It's good. It's good. Talk about that. Okay, there's a couple of questions that you can decide from, I guess.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you three. Pick one. Um, do you have any advice for newbies, like baby girls, uh, baby workers, I should say, and clients? Or that's question number one. Question number two is what what does the role of intimacy play in your work for you?
I feel like I don't really have any advice to hand off to anybody because I still feel babyish in a lot of different ways.
Me too.
Um, so I mean, I don't know if you ever lose that, but I feel like it keeps you wanting to grow and learn,
You know,
feeling that way.
the reason I'm doing these interviews, a lot of the reason is because when COVID happened and I had to go online, I was like, I don't know what to do. So I should start asking these incredible people who I've been following to get their advice and just like to learn about this world that I had been avoiding for a very long time out of fear, whatever reason. So it's been working well for me. I'm learning a lot, but yeah, I don't think I have much advice to give people either. Okay, so I'm going to narrow it down to two. What does the role of intimacy play in your work, and or what vision do you have for yourself in the future?
Ooh.
Or what do you want?
Those are great questions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm gonna do the intimacy one, because weirdly enough, I've definitely come to realize I fear intimacy, like utter intimacy. Like I don't do. I'm very much when you date me, I'm not the lovey, like cuddly, close person. Like I need my space, I need my time. I'm not like intimacy makes me feel very uncomfortable. So it's interesting that I kind of do this as work. But I feel like the type of intimacy you have to curate with your clients is a lot different than just like touchy feely. Like a lot of these times, like men just like want to be listened to, they want to be heard, they want someone to look them in the eyes, not be looking at their phones and pay attention to them. It's definitely taught me that there's so many different levels of intimacy that everybody needs, and being able to pick up on whatever that client needs and how they feel intimate. Some of it is like they want to be touched when they're talking to, like, you know, just on the shoulder or the hand. Some want like the direct eye contact and the acknowledgement that they're being heard. You know, some want to be like boasted with words and that feels intimate to them. It's definitely taught me that there's so many different forms that everyone needs, and just how to cater to people. And that's definitely helped me in my personal life as well.
Yeah, like providing I wouldn't call it feigned intimacy, but a container for intimacy. Yeah, to be
Yeah.
seen and heard as we are. I think it must be hard, like, to be a client sometimes, because even that, there can be nervousness, or I don't know, shame, all that stuff that comes with it, excitement,
Yeah.
all the troubles that are outside. And yeah, I think it's a very important role to play, someone who's just there to see and hear. I wonder how that works in a club. Seems like it has to happen kind
It's
of quick.
It depends. Like if it's like a Friday, Saturday night and it's like really busy, like yes, that is really hard. But I was mostly working the day shifts because I felt like you could really like connect with customers more that way. Or kind of like leading in before like the night gets like super rowdy. I feel like you have an opportunity to make more money that way because you're connecting with these people. And you know, for me, I don't ever feel like I'm feigning because I enjoy what I'm doing, and I'm sure there are tons of girls that are just faking it and they're able to kind of glide by that way.
Yeah.
But for me to be fully engaged, I have to be fully engaged, and I find, you know, humans extremely fascinating, and I love studying personality types and behavior. So for me, having the chance to talk to this random person that maybe I'll never see again and really dive into their psychology and like what makes them tick, like that's so, it just like gets me excited, and you know, I really enjoy it. So for me to just sit there with some guy for, you know, 15-20 an hour and, you know, try to cater to what he needs, I'm not faking it because I'm just, my mind is working. Like, what makes you tick? You liked when I did that, you didn't like when I did that, like your base is doing this, so that means you like this. um so I enjoy that, but it just, you know, for them to have someone who's caring that much about them, like that reads that I'm trying to figure out all of these things.
Yeah,
And they can see that I'm interested.
it's beautiful. Okay, so last question then. We've come
Okay.
to the end. I'm
Full circle.
I'm like, this harness, or
Yeah.
yeah,
Don't you, like, honestly, if you play around with it enough, you'll find one that you're like, I feel like this was better than my bras. Like,
do. Oh yeah,
we
like
should we should replace underwire with just
s-
wire like this. No wire, just rope.
yeah, this is great. I had a client one time. I'm just going to tell a story. I had a client one time who wanted to tie me up, and he brought gauze, thinking it was soft. And gauze can be soft if it's left flat. like a roll, but
Mm-hmm.
it twisted so it became like string, and pulling on it just like it wasn't fun for me at
That's
all.
actually kind of dangerous, but that's also, I think, another kink in the medical, like the medical kink,
Yeah,
where
anything about that, but
never let anyone tie you up who doesn't actually know what they're doing, because that can be very dangerous.
yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything that I felt nervous about, but I was like, I don't think you've ever been tied up to know. Doesn't feel good, Anyway,
Yes.
I never saw that person again, but it was definitely a whole thing. I took the money. So okay, so my last question for you is, and this is one that I ask all my guests, is today, if you were a flower, what flower would you be, and why?
Um, I mean, I just want to instinctually say sunflower because it's my favorite, but yeah, I don't know. I guess the sunflower, because they're very flashy and they stick out and they're very kind of bold. And I think that I'm not the type of person to melt in the back of the room. I'm always very like center of attention. I'm very tiny in real life. I'm only 5 foot. Like, I'm very tiny human, but I always feel like I make a grand entrance because I'm loud, I'm clumsy, I'm out there. So like people notice me. I'm always wearing bright colors. If I'm not wearing all black, it's just very in your face colors. So I definitely identify with the sunflower, and the sunflower always faces the sun, and the squirrel loves her sun. So definitely relate so much with the sunflower.
Now, I would add to that, having just met you, that a sunflower is so multi-purposed. They really provide a lot, with the seeds and their oils and the petals and the joy that they bring to anyone who sees a sunflower. So I would definitely add that to your
Yes, thank
definition.
you. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to say thank you so much. Unless there's anything left on your heart that you'd like to say, now is your chance until we meet again.
Thank you so much for taking the time to interview me. It made me feel special.
Yeah, well, you are special, and I can't wait to share this with my small following, but it's quality. They're quality
You
people.
have to start somewhere, so I think that's really great.
Yeah,
I think it's amazing what you're doing. It's been really great to kind of, I started when you had already started it, but just to kind of see you progress with it, it's been really great. And I love all the work that you put out too. I think
thank you.
it's all beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a lot of work with my man, and that's
I
been
think that's great you have someone to share that with. Like, that is definitely something like I would like in the future, is to have a partner that I can really share this world with, and someone who could help me through this artistic journey as well.
it's literally a dream come true, and I
It's
wish
amazing.
every human gets to have that experience. True intimacy on all levels.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
requires
beautiful.
extreme amounts of vulnerability, but mostly like a lot of respect. A lot of respect. So thank you for that.